So I've recently been playing a lot of a game called Pokémon Unite. Pokémon Unite is a game where you play on a team of 5 Pokémon, and your objective is to eliminate wild Pokémon and enemy Pokémon to earn points to score in the opponent's goals. And one day, I was thinking to myself, what could be a cool Pokémon to put in Pokémon Unite? And then it hit me. I wanted to put my favorite Pokémon, Feraligatr, in Pokémon Unite, which is why, for this video, I did it. I imagined how Feraligatr would be and how it would work in Pokémon Unite, and I made extremely detailed moves, abilities, stats, and everything that each Pokémon has in the game for Feraligatr. I even took to Photoshop, and with heavy detail, I made it look like Feraligatr was actually in Pokémon Unite. Even all of the custom moves and stats and abilities that I made for it, I made it look like they were in the actual game. Now this video took me hours upon hours to make, and it's probably the most effort I've ever put into one of my many hundreds of videos that I've put on this channel, so enjoy! Hello again, you beautiful viewers, and I am here now to explain everything that I was just talking about in the intro. I hope you guys watched the time lapse and enjoyed it. That was about 5 minutes. The time lapse, the actual footage totaled to about 8 hours of me working on this. And as you could see, I was going back and forth between a few separate projects, so I could do as much as I possibly could. Because for those of you that don't know, when you're looking at the stats and everything about a Pokemon and Pokemon Unite, they have a main screen that just like gives you an overview of everything, which is what you're actually looking at right now. And then they have a screen that shows how they evolve throughout the game, and then other screens that show with each level up if they evolve and what moves they learn. So I went through and did all of that with a little like changes here and there just to make it like fit with what I was doing, so I could like put the descriptions on the actual images. So we're actually going to go through those right now, and I'm just going to read them out loud and kind of explain them. So first of all, we're on this main screen, gives a really good overview of everything. As you can see, we have Feraligatr here. It says Feraligatr. It has a Feraligatr. He's a melee attacker. I did actually have to change that on my own because there actually are no melee attackers in the game because they're supposed to be range damagers, even though the two of the biggest ones are physical attackers. So whatever. If you play Pokemon, you have a gist of what that means. But yeah, it's a expert difficulty to play, and here's its stat overview. I gave it 4 offense, which is the same as the above average offensive Pokemon like Greninja or Cinderace. I know there are some that are a little bit higher than 4 stars, but yeah. I gave it a decent amount of endurance. Most attackers have a half a star less than that. I made it slightly bulkier than the rest of them. I also made it slightly slower than some of them by the same amount. And it has average, slightly above average scoring and 0 support because it's an attacker. It's not going to be supporting its team. Now, for those of you that don't know Unite, I'll just explain the roles. There are attackers that are meant to do damage, speedsters that are meant to score, do similar stuff, deal a lot of damage. There are defenders that are meant to bring bulk to team fights, supporters that are meant to heal and provide protection and stuff like that, and all-rounders that kind of do a little bit of everything. Really depends on which one you're talking about. But anyway, I digress. We're going to get into the other details here. So over here we have basic attacks and the ability, which is sheer force. Now for those of you that know how Unite works, you're going to get this. If you don't get Unite, this is going to get a little bit confusing for you, but basic attacks are basically just your normal attacks that you're using all the time, other than these fancy ones over here. So the way its basic attacks work are, I'll zoom into it, its basic attacks become boosted attacks with every 4th attack, dealing continual damage and stunning opposing Pokemon for a short time when it hits. Now, what that means, even for some people that understand Unite, the wording that the game uses sometimes is a little like off, is a little misleading. But I still used their lingo and stuff for this just because I wanted to seem consistent. So this means that by dealing continual damage, it means when it hits, it's not going to deal all of its damage at once. They're going to gradually lose the HP that you're dealing. And stunning just means they can't move for a short time. And then if we go over here, its ability, I made sheer force. I was a little iffy when I made this because I was working on this before the mobile release, hence it being the old Nintendo Switch version UI. But I was iffy because there were no Pokemon other than Garchomp that had their hidden abilities. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was the only one that had their in the main series, their hidden abilities. And then Sylveon came out recently, who also does. So that made me a little more confident in this. So I gave it Sheer Force. Now, in the regular Pokemon games, Sheer Force makes it so moves that have secondary effects, like flinching, lowering defense, and stuff like that, they will lose the secondary effect and deal more damage. So this is actually really similar with a slight twist. So the way Sheer Force works is when the opposing Pokemon is at low HP, this Pokemon's moves deal extra damage but lose their secondary effects, and these moves cannot be critical hits. The not be critical hits thing, I just wanted to make a balance there, because if they could crit, that would be really overpowered, especially because there are items that make your crit chance a lot higher. Another thing I like to point out, every little ability or move that has its own icon, I made my own of. So I did that with all the moves, as you can see over here. I made them the mon that uses them for all of them. So Sheer Force, obviously, you see Feraligatr's right there. And then for these moves, you see Crocodile, Feraligatr, and Totodile, Feraligatr, all of that. Now, these are just some of its moves. Now, these two are start-off moves, and these are 2 of the possible moves that you could level up to get. I'll go further in depth into that in a moment. This is Unite move, which I'll also go in depth with. This is the ability that I already told you about, and these are the basic attacks. You can probably see the correlation of the images. So the next image is this one was the easiest to make, but it also looks really clean because I was able to use high-res models based on their positions. So it didn't really matter that much, which was nice. So anyway, this progression screen basically tells you the point of its role. Obviously, these are attackers, so they deal heavy damage at range. Even though it's a melee attacker, its melee attacks do have range, like dashing and stuff like that. And the progression is mainly here just to see what levels they evolve. But that's really all I have to say about this one. It's just the 3 Pokemon. And then we get into the move progression, which is a lot more interesting and took the most time out of anything because there are 4 separate things for the progression, for the move progressions. So we have, first of all, I went into the detail to put the yellow highlight over the correct one for each one, which was a little bit of a pain in the ass, but whatever. And so yeah, we have its moves that it starts off with. So the way the start off moves work are you get one right when you spawn the first time, and then you get the second one when you hit level 3. You get to choose which order you pick them also, but I'll just describe how they work. So we have Aqua Jet over here. As you can see, this is a Croconaw using it. I did that because you lose Aqua Jet by the time you're already a Feraligatr. So yeah, I made it a Croconaw, and then we have Bite, which is obviously just a Totodile with its mouth open and some glowing teeth. So the way Aqua Jet works is it has the user charge forward in a cloak of water, decreasing the movement speed of opposing Pokemon for a short time. So you dash into them, and they get a little bit slower for like a second or two. And then Bite has a large set of jaws form in front of the user's gaping mouth. These jaws bite down, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon and leaving them unable to move for a short time. So they are stunned, and they just can't move for like a second or two. It's usually very short-term effects that they have. And Aqua Jet, as you can see, is a dash, and Bite is a melee move. And then when you level up to level 5, you get to pick one of these 2 moves, and you evolve into Croconaw. So obviously, I made these moves, and I would suggest of these 2 if it were actually in the game. Ice Punch is definitely a better option because it pairs well with its other moves, but I'll explain both of them. So we have Aqua Tail, a melee with a 5.5 second cooldown. Also, if you guys were wondering, 5-second cooldown on Aqua Jet, 10-second cooldown on Bite. So we have a 5.5-second cooldown on Aqua Tail. It's a melee attack. Now, Aqua Tail has the user spin in a circle with its tail out, dealing damage to opposing Pokemon in the area of effect and shoving them away from the user, which just means that they get pushed in the opposite direction that you are, so like away from you. And the upgrade just shoves them further. Moves past the first moves that I showed you after these 2 get upgrades later in the game, which is what these are. So you learn the upgrades towards the end of the game, which just makes the moves slightly stronger. So your other option here, which I think is definitely a better option, is a dash move, which is Ice Punch with a 7.5-second cooldown. And this move has the user punch with an Icy Fist, dealing damage and shoving opposing Pokemon when it hits, meaning pushing them away from you. It also freezes opposing Pokemon, meaning they can't move for like a second or two. If they were previously hit with a boosted attack, Aqua Jet, Surf, or Liquidation. Now, Surf and Liquidation are going to be moves that you're going to see in a moment. Those are going to be your other 2 options after you get this move. And its upgrade makes it so your cooldown gets reduced on Aqua Jet, Surf, or Liquidation if this move freezes an opposing Pokemon. So it pairs really well with other moves, which is why this would work really well in the real game if it ever actually happened. So freezing here in this case, it's very similar to stunning, like I've mentioned before, usually for a slightly longer term, and it usually is just done to fit an icy theme in certain Pokemon like Ninetales or Mamoswine or something like that. But yeah, those are your first 2 move options, and then when you hit level 7, you don't evolve yet, but you get to pick your next move, being either Surf or Liquidation. I had to do Surf because every single water type in Pokemon Unite has Surf for some reason, and I thought it was funny, so I had to keep the trend going. Now, out of these 2, Liquidation is definitely better, but again, I'll explain both of them. So Surf is an 8-second cooldown area attack, and it has you attack with a wave that deals damage to opposing Pokemon. Once the wave has traveled its full distance, it crashes, leaving a puddle that decreases the movement speed of opposing Pokemon in the area of effect for a short time. And the upgrade you get later on, it increases the move's range and decreases its cooldown. So, essentially, this works like a mix between Blastoise's Water Spout and Charizard's Fire Blast. Now, this is going to be a little too hard to explain for those of you that don't understand how Unite works, but those of you that have played and know how those two moves work, Blastoise sends a puddle of water wherever it wants that does continual damage and slows opponents. Charizard's does the same thing, but it stops when it hits something. But the way Surf works is it will actually travel through an opponent if it hits them, and it will only stop and cause that little area puddle when it's traveled its full distance. So it's harder for targeting and stuff like that. So it's overall a decent move, but Liquidation is a far better option, especially when paired with Ice Punch from before. Liquidation has the user dash through the opposing Pokemon, decreasing the movement speed and defense of the opposing Pokemon for a short time, and the upgrade increases the move's range and the duration of its effects. So basically what this means is when you hit them, not only are you going to hit into them, but you're going to go through them if you end up being at a close enough range to go through them, because the dashes have a definitive distance most of the time. But when you hit them, they will move slower for a short time, and you will also deal more damage to them for a short time. And when you upgrade it, that amount of time is increased. And yeah, so then after that, you hit level 9, and you evolve into Feraligatr and unlock your Unite move, which are essentially the ultimates of Pokemon Unite. And for Feraligatr, its Unite move is Ballistic Crunch. It's a melee attack, and it works like this. I know it's a pretty lengthy description, but I think it fits pretty well with just how Feraligatr is. So Unite move, Ballistic Crunch. The user opens its mouth, forming a massive set of jaws in front of itself. The user then repeatedly bites down with these jaws, damaging opposing Pokemon in front of the user. Using this move again will have the user leap into the air and dive towards the opposing Pokemon while unleashing a final powerful bite. The final bite then explodes after use, once again dealing damage to opposing Pokemon in the area of effect. So I'll explain this one slightly more in depth than the other moves. So essentially the way this works is you'll have a set of jaws form in front of you, and you'll be able to move freely and stuff, almost, actually somewhat similarly to Mamoswine's Unite move, where you're just jumping around in whatever directions you want to, because you're still moving and controlling yourself. But instead of causing little earthquakes, you'll be chomping down with jaws that'll just be going on their own while you're moving. And then if you use the move again, by that it means press the button that you use to activate your Unite move again, you then jump into the air and crunch down on the opponents, which does extra damage. And the little explosion that was mentioned over here would be similar to that of Greninja's Unite move, the big water shuriken that explodes after you throw it. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about how its moves work. This project was crazy long for me. Again, I will reiterate, this is the most effort I have ever put into one of my videos, and I've made quite a few videos in the past almost 5 years now, and I just really hope you guys enjoy. And oh my god, I spent so much time on this. I'm very happy to see it finally end, and I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed. I really had a lot of fun making this, and I put a lot. I cannot stress enough how much, so much effort into this video. It took me over the span of a month, again, 8 hours for me to finish this Photoshop project, because it was so many separate things. It was 6 separate mini Photoshop projects. Some were quicker than others, some were not quicker than others. But again, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And if you didn't watch the time-lapse and you skipped over to here, that's fine, but I suggest you go look at the time-lapse, because it just shows everything come together really quickly. It's only 5 minutes. I will see you guys in the next video, and make sure to check out some of my other videos. I dropped a pretty great video that I had a lot of fun making also yesterday. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next video, and yeah, deuces.